The rules are simple. For every boss, I must use a random weapon class to beat them. We'll achieve this by using a random number generator website to spin a wheel each time we beat a boss. There are just enough weapon classes for each boss, if we include each type of shield and the lantern. Like the other versions of the challenge, I must spin the wheel immediately after beating a boss and unequip my current weapon. Once I've used a weapon class against a boss, I can no longer use that weapon class for the whole playthrough for any reason and must search for a new one. If the wheel lands on a weapon class that I don't currently have, I must go through the game with bare fists until I find a suitable weapon. I cannot use any weapon classes until the wheel lands on them. For example, I may not use shields for parrying if I haven't rolled shields, just as I can't use a talisman to cast healing miracles before the wheel lands on talismans. However, I can use the bare-handed parry if I want. As a disclaimer before I start, I always allow duping in cases where the only thing it changes about the run is the amount of time it takes to reach a certain result, like getting a particular amount of upgrade materials, for instance. I never do it to say, make myself OP before Undead Burg. I didn't really need to do much in this run, but I'll still mention it just in case. Whatever the wheel lands on will determine our starting class. We'll have to keep spinning until it lands on a weapon class that is available for at least one of the starting characters. That ended up being axes, so our choices are Bandit or Pyromancer. I chose the Pyromancer to have early access to the Pyromancy Flame in case we need it, but for now, we'll be using the hand axe as our weapon until we escape the asylum. I also decided not to get the Master Key this time, so that I wouldn't have too easy of a time finding weapons. Naturally, the Asylum Demon poses no threat as long as you have a weapon that does damage, so while the hand axe didn't get to be in the spotlight for long, it served its purpose well. This means as soon as we set foot in Firelink Shrine, it'll be time to spin the wheel again. And our next weapon class is Great Swords. We're only on the second weapon of the run, and are already seeing the consequences of not using the Master Key. Normally, I would just sprint past Havel and head to Undead Parish to get the Bastard Sword from Andre, or even the Claymore from the bridge. But with no Master Key, our options are limited, and we'll have to get a little more creative. There's only one greatsword that I can access at this point, and that's only if I get lucky enough for it to drop. Despite its name, the Black Knight sword is classified as a greatsword, and if we can get it to drop from the Black Knight in Undead Burg, we won't have to spin again. I gotta make it count, so I used all the humanity I had on me before leading him off the bridge as usual. And we got it! It'll take a bit of leveling to reach the requirements, but nothing that we can't do in a few minutes or so. 20 strength isn't going to be a problem since we can just two-hand it, but until we get to 18 dexterity, it's not only going to do similar damage to fists, it'll also bounce off of everything. This will make our farming slightly more tedious than usual, but thankfully there are plenty of cliffs to lure enemies to their death. Plus, there are plenty of consumable souls to pick up in the area. Once we've finally gotten all the levels we need, we can finally test it out against the Taurus Demon. Since it's a Black Knight weapon, it will do bonus damage against demon enemies, which, in addition to the fact that this weapon is already overpowered for this area, actually turned this fight into a one-shot. Before we spin again, we'll start getting some more health. This time the wheel chose for me, Great Shields. First Great Swords, now Great Shields. I think the wheel is a little biased. That's not a problem for me though, just the fact that we've beat the Taurus Demon allows us to access most of what the Master Key would have opened. Before I fall back on any of those options, first I want to defeat the Heavy Knight in the parish and see if he drops the Tower Shield. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to do much against him with just fists, but it turns out any attack is enough to stagger him out of his Estus Chug, so as long as you catch it soon enough, you can prevent him from healing. The fight will still take a couple of minutes to complete, but at least you only have to do it once. Unfortunately, I used up all my luck on that Black Knight from last time, so no shield for me. That leaves me with just a few options. I could try to farm the Stone Knights for their shield, but having to deal with the debuff every time, all for a measly shield, that's just not worth it. My other options are either going through Upper Blighttown backwards for the Eagle Shield, or farming bone wheel skeletons in the catacombs with my bare hands until I get their shield. Neither option is pleasant, but for once, I think I'd rather go through Upper Blighttown. It won't be that bad. Once you get past the mosquitoes in the lower portion, the upper portion can be made much easier if you pace yourself and don't try to run past the enemies. All of them can be baited off a ledge, but they can also eat you alive, so it's better to take advantage of their low poise and punch them down yourself. So if you ever find yourself stuck on a dead end with one of these guys, just remember that they are the ones at a disadvantage, not you. Once I climb my way back out of Blighttown, I start upgrading my shield and thinking about which boss would be best to face next. The Moonlight Butterfly is weak enough to cancel out the low damage of a Great Shield, so I figured this would be an easy victory. I don't know what kind of damage I was expecting. Obviously the Great Shield is doing pathetic damage on top of taking up a whole stamina bar with each hit, so the only thing that got cancelled out was my own damage. The Moonlight Butterfly healed back so much HP that I may as well have not even attacked it at all. I don't care, keep your HP, but don't think that I won't remember this. The Capra Demon is the next obvious choice for a Great Shield. Turtling up is one of the best things to do to get past the initial walk-in from the Fog Gate, particularly for the dogs. While it doesn't block all the damage from physical attacks like most Great Shields, it makes up for it in this fight by negating most of the bleed buildup done by the dogs, plus it still has great stability. Once the dogs are out of the picture, the Great Shield really holds its own against the Capra Demon due to its heavy deflection. Most humanoid enemies have deflectable attacks. What this means is that certain attacks will bounce off a shield when blocked, which gives us a little extra time to attack with a shield bash, allowing the Eagle Shield to easily take down its caprine prey. Just to stay on the safe side, I'll get some more vitality. Now let's see what the wheel will decide for our next weapon. It looks like we'll be using curved greatswords next. There aren't many of them, but the few that this game does have are relatively easy to get. I chose the server this time because I never use it. It's not really anything special damage-wise, but it does have a neat little gimmick where each hit will heal some of your HP. The amount it heals is pretty small, which doesn't pair well with the slow moveset of the weapon, so in most cases you'd be better off using the Ring of the Evil Eye. But it could still be useful as a little extra source of healing if you can't afford to waste a ring slot. After getting some souls so I could upgrade it to +5, I went back to Darkroot Garden for a rematch with the Moonlight Butterfly. I thought I'd give the foul creature a taste of its own nectar, let it see how it feels when I'm the one healing. Because the server is a little slow, I actually cut it pretty close here. I had to risk getting hit by the AoE both times just to make sure this fight didn't drag on for a third cycle. We'll go ahead and claim the levels from that before we spin for the next weapon. And the next weapon class is daggers. That's not too hard to work with. I will say I'm a little disappointed to have landed on them so early since the more interesting daggers aren't available until much later in the game. But that's just part of the run. You can't pick and choose which weapons you want. While the basic dagger isn't the flashiest weapon out there, it's a useful weapon for backstabbing the enemies guarding the large ember. Once the way to that is cleared, I'm gonna backtrack to lower Undead Burg and kill some hollow thieves until I get the bandit's knife. I'm an indecisive person, so before getting the bandit's knife, I also had a +6 dagger in case I wanted to use it over the knife after all. Ultimately, I did choose the bandit's knife because it has a better critical modifier and it inflicts bleed, which is useful for dealing with all the rats in the depths. The Gaping Dragon can't be bled out, which is odd considering that it definitely has blood. It's not really a huge deal though, since there's no damage difference between this and the regular dagger. The only difference that matters here is the moveset. I think the dagger is slightly faster, so it's up to you which one you prefer for this fight. I mostly did this fight to get the tail cut because I want the Dragon King Great Axe for later. Like always, this fight isn't really difficult, just slow-paced. After claiming a few more levels, I suppose it's that time again. Curved swords, huh? That soon after curved greatswords? Well, nothing I can do about that. It's kind of a basic choice, but since I already picked up the falchion from Blighttown, I might as well use it. Before I head back to the parish to face the gargoyles, First, I want to pick up Havel's Ring, so I can wear something with a little more poise. I ended up getting this guy to chase me all the way to the top entrance in Undead Burg, but sadly he wouldn't follow me off the bridge like the other enemies. The best way to kill him is to parry him to death, which is much easier than I'm making it look. If you want to be a real show-off, you can wield 2 curved swords and parry with the one in your left hand. It was a bit of a missed opportunity that I didn't do that here. After a few parries, he tends to go into shock for some reason and stop moving. But don't let your guard down, because once you start attacking again, he'll snap out of it. With our falchion already upgraded to a suitable level, the Gargoyles will be no match against the DPS of a curved sword. Something about curved swords makes them super fun for me, not just the fact that they cut through enemies like butter, but also the attack animations themselves. Those quick slashes are very satisfying to land. I did a little bit of everything in this fight, a few heavy attacks here and there, and even some of those backflips that curved swords are known for. Whichever boss we're fighting next, the wheel has decided that this time we'll be using katanas. Initially, I thought about fighting Quelaag next, but I want to take advantage of the bleed buildup that katanas have, so I chose something that's not immune to bleed. We'll get to that soon, but first we need to get the stats to be able to use a katana. Thankfully, I don't have to tread too far into Upper Blighttown. The Iaito is close to the entrance, so you only have to run past a handful of enemies to reach it. This one takes 20 dex to wield, but in the meantime, I'll take advantage of the dragon as I head towards the male undead merchant and kill him for his Uchigatana. The Uchigatana is much easier to use than the Iaito, but there's not too much of a damage difference between the two at this point, so it's similar to the dagger situation from earlier and ultimately comes down to which moveset you want to use. Once I finally get the stats I need, I make my way to the catacombs to challenge Pinwheel. Just for fun, let's try out the skip this time. It'll save us a lot of trouble in the short term, but we'll likely still have to go through the level at some point if we need certain items. For now, we'll focus on the task at hand, which is getting to Pinwheel. When you get to the final platform, do a quick glance in both directions to make sure the coast is clear of any bone wheels before you jump down. Pinwheel isn't going to do much to defend himself, so this is a good chance to test the moveset of the Iaito and see what it can do. Just don't play with your food for too long, or things might start to get a little hectic. Of course, now it's time to spin the wheel and see what we'll be using next. Up next is hammers. Those shouldn't be hard to find at all. Most of them can be found in the early game areas. For instance, Andre sells a war pick, which will be my hammer of choice for the next boss. I'll upgrade it to +7 before heading into Blighttown. The war pick is special among hammers since it does thrust damage instead of the usual strike damage, a property shared only by the pickaxe. In addition to this, it's affected by the sweet spot mechanic for potentially even more damage, especially if you have the Leo ring to boost counterattacks. I'm not really worried about optimizing it this early on, I just chose it because I like the moveset. At +7, it's not going to have any trouble clearing out enemies in Blighttown as long as it connects, but if it doesn't, we're going to have to sit through the stumble animation, which is not a good thing to be stuck in when you're surrounded by dart blowers. The only thing I struggled with while using the war pick is shorter enemies like the dogs. Its swings fly right over their heads if you're not directly in front of them, and these cases are better off using jump attacks. Against Quelaag, however, we can take our pick from any of its moves and hammer away. Usually I'm fighting Quelaag with something underpowered, so it felt refreshing to finally do some damage to her for once. The damage from a few light attacks adds up very quickly, but my favorite thing about this weapon is the heavy attacks. The war pick has a unique heavy attack where your character will swing the weapon side to side. You can make a lot of combos from this. I believe the full attack is actually 4 hits, so there's a lot of room for personal expression here if you want to play around with this attack. I could only ever do the first 2 hits since that's all my stamina allows for, but you can see that this made no impact on its effectiveness. The outcome of the fights we pick with this weapon are already set in stone. I'll continue to keep up with my strength for now, and once I'm done with that, well, you know what time it is. This time, the wheel chooses whips as the next weapon class. Simple enough. We're already in Blighttown, so all we have to do is backtrack a little and we have our whip. I'll upgrade it all the way to +8 to prepare it for Sen's Fortress. It's a lot weaker against armored enemies or enemies with scales. Sounds perfect for the area, right? I did pick up enough extra large Titanite throughout the area to upgrade it one more time. Hopefully now it will be somewhat passable against the Iron Golem. Damage is not the worst it could be, but I do think we could use a little help, so I am going to try to knock him off the ledge, assuming the whip is capable of knocking him over in the first place. I wasn't able to knock him over, so he decided to show me how it's done. I wish it were as easy as picking him up and tossing him off for me. Maybe he'll respect me if I respect him. Alright, we'll take the fight to center stage and fight him normally. Just kidding. You think I'm forgiving him for toying around with me earlier? He shouldn't have trusted me as far as he can throw me. Now he will be the one to fall from grace. What? How did you manage to foil me again? The Iron Golem, who is usually so forgettable, has made quite an impression on me this time. He was clinging to life until the very end. And for that, he has earned my respect, this time in earnest. But my duty remains the same, and I must move on. And so, it's time again to spin the wheel. Looks like I was wise to start leveling my strength early, because next we'll be using great axes. In order to two-hand the Dragon King Great Axe, we need 34 strength. We've still got a long ways to go, so we'd better keep increasing our strength. Until I meet the requirement, there's no point in using it in combat. I'd have better luck running away from everything than taking out a group of enemies with the Great Axe in this state. If it's just a single enemy, however, it's not so bad since I can backstab it enough times for it to die, and still do okay damage. After farming this Silver Knight for a few minutes and collecting the Soul of a Hero from upstairs, I was able to meet the requirement for the weapon and proceed through the level. Not long ago, I picked up a Dragon Scale in Blighttown, so we can upgrade it once to be in top condition for Ornstein and Smough. Since I usually fight Ornstein first, I'll mix it up for this playthrough and kill Smough first instead. Smough's fairly easy to kill in both phases with a weapon as powerful as ours. He also has significantly lower physical defenses than Ornstein, though it seems like it would be the other way around. Another thing I've learned is to not be afraid to be aggressive against Smough's first phase version. He doesn't look it, but he staggers quite easily if you have something like the Dragon King Great Axe. For me, it took a little over 30 seconds to beat him. Now for phase 2. While our Great Axe is very powerful, we'll need to tone down the aggressiveness with a threat of Ornstein's grab and AoE. I was hoping for an opportunity to show off with the weapon art, maybe even do a weapon art only Ornstein fight. But he would not stay still for me, and continue to play by his own rules. I see why he chose a feline theme as a knight. The damage of the weapon art is pretty good, but for how much stamina it costs to use, it's not much better here than doing 2 light attacks would be. Not to mention that it drains the durability of the weapon for each use. That makes it even more risky to go for one. Once I got him to around half of his health, I figured this would be a good place to stop using the weapon arts to save durability on my weapon. The Great Axe is too slow to punish his AoE, so rather than getting greedy and trying to hit him after it anyway, I'll just wait it out until he chooses a different attack. Even if it means sitting through 3 of those in a row. Everything else is easy to dodge and punish, and with the Great Axe, we don't need to worry about too many attacks. With our damage, he won't have time to do much more. I will gladly take a free miracle before I spin, thank you. And the wheel lands on Ultra Great Swords. See, it's always a good idea to level strength in advance. The Black Knight Greatsword's already got some good AR without me needing to upgrade it, so I'll go with that one. By now, it's time we start clearing out the denizens of Darkroot so we can free Dusk, and have the lake ready for when we need to go into the DLC. This time I'll save my money and take the back way to Seath. This isn't a fight that I typically struggle with, but I should have known. If I'm going without using the shortcut, I'm going to die. Usually I can get away with dodging into this swing when I'm light rolling, but with mid-roll the sweet spot becomes a lot trickier to roll into. It's more reliable to roll away from it, but if I do that, I don't get to punish it, so I kept going for the forward roll even if it's riskier. All of that is unimportant anyway. I just want to do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. It's the least I can do for Seath. With the most painful fight over with, we'll pick up the memento from the grave before heading out of the forest. Our next role is halberds, and I'll be heading back to the catacombs for this one. There are a couple of these in the catacombs, but the one I'll be going with is the Great Scythe. In the first Dark Souls, scythes do not have their own weapon class, but rather are lumped together with the other pole weapons in the halberd category. I think they technically have a separate weapon class in the files, but I treated them as halberds in this run to stay consistent with what they are called in-game. +3 will do for now. This weapon is already decent, plus it has bleed damage to help us out. With this, I'll start clearing out some of the side bosses. The first one up is the Stray Demon back at the Asylum. Since it isn't upgraded much, our damage is low enough to showcase the moveset before the bleed kicks in. While the Stray Demon is fairly easy to take down even at lower levels, it can still do a lot of damage, so we'll try to keep our guard up and not get too carried away testing out the Great Scythe. That was simple enough, so let's move on and see what the wheel has for us next. Our weapon class for the next optional boss will be a Great Hammer. We descend into the dark secret room of Anor Londo and open the chest containing the Dragon Tooth, being careful not to open the Mimic instead. With the peculiar doll in our inventory, we head back to the painting room where we're granted access to the painted world inside. First things first, let's take the shortcut to the shortcut before we do anything crazy. We are carrying about 150k souls here. For the most part, we don't have to worry about the enemies here. A tooth is made to crush its food, and that's exactly what it's gonna do. Some of the food is a little tougher to chew, if you know what I'm getting at, so I'm taking the hint the game is giving me and picking up the Ring of Sacrifice before I go too far into the well. Some of the bone wheels can be lured to the entrance for a plunging attack. It doesn't always line up perfectly, but it did work, and I was able to kill most of the skeletons in the tunnel that way, but I wasn't going to go to the contraption room without a Ring of Sacrifice when I'm carrying all these souls, even if I were the most confident person in the world. Priscilla, though, there would hardly be any pressure even if I wasn't traveling heavy. The Dragon Tooth knocks her out of her invisibility instantly, and since I remembered to bring some blood-red moss clumps this time, that nullifies her other threat. It feels like some kind of cruel joke to kill her with a dragon weapon, but no joke could be crueler than that of her cursed existence. We spin again, this time for crossbows. Coming from Demon Souls, it's great to be able to upgrade crossbows again. I know crossbows still aren't the best in this game, but I've learned to be grateful for what I have. With our light crossbow nearly to max level, it should be good enough for whatever boss we challenge next, but it's better to be safe than sorry, so we'll stock up on bolts before fighting anything. Another thing crossbows are good for... The Dark Moon Knightess will be waiting for us at the contraption. Push her out of the way and keep running down the stairs. Even if she chases you, just focus on lighting the bonfire and try not to panic as much as I did. I would say that we're going to show Gwendolyn how it feels to have someone spam projectiles at you for 5 minutes, but this didn't turn out to be the duel of archers I thought it would be. Since you can't aim with the crossbow, you can't hide behind a pillar and snipe from a safe distance. And with the crossbow being as slow as it is, it would be a terrible idea to try to shoot from out in the open. Gwendolyn tends to warp just out of our lock-on range anyways, so there's not really much of a point in trying to make this a ranged fight. I was still doing decent damage, so it's not like I would have to chase Gwendolyn down for long. I'll get as many levels as I can before moving on, even if it's just a single level. Then we'll spin for the next weapon class. As you can see, our next weapon class is spears. I'm all out of Lloyd's talismans, so I'll have to slay this mimic myself for the lightning spear. Once we have it, we can take it to the giant blacksmith to have him revert it to a spear plus 10. That way, we can ascend it to the Dragon Slayer spear without having to do all those upgrades ourselves. I'm not sure if it's much better than a plain old lightning spear at this faith level, but it's definitely cooler, so I'm sticking with it. After using lots of soul items and selling the coins from the mimics in Anor Londo, I have 24 dex and can properly wield it. I haven't fought Ceaseless Discharge for real in a while, so this time I'll do the full fight to showcase the unique moveset of the Dragon Slayer spear. This fight could be a good chance to get some use out of the weapon art because we'd be able to attack him even before he extends his limb. But I haven't fought him in so long that I've forgotten how to dodge his attacks, and they do a lot of damage. The lightning projectile is cool, but it didn't do too much damage in our case. So instead of needlessly spending my weapon's durability on it, I relied on the two-handed attacks for this fight. Revisiting this fight has only reinforced my decision to cheese him in every playthrough. I don't enjoy this fight, and I never really have. I assume the developers felt the same way if they built in a way to skip it. Let's see where the wheel will take us next. So the wheel has finally chosen fists. I've been saving something just for this. Using any +10 fist weapon, we can use the Golem core in our inventory to ascend it to a Dragonbone fist. Upgrading this isn't cheap, and we still need a few more dragon scales if we want to get it to a decent level. We can find a few of these lying around in Ash Lake. Once we get those, that will be enough to reinforce it to +3. At first glance, it may not seem so special, but the main appeal of this weapon is in its strong attack. You can Shoryuken with this thing. Sadly, it is nowhere near as strong as the real thing, and it doesn't give us any type of invincibility. But this weapon is for people who want to look cool, not do damage. The Demon Fire Sage is too big to launch into the heavens with our fist, so instead we'll have to knock it back down to the depths of hell where it came from. Let's get some more health before we continue through Lost Izalith. For the next boss, it seems we'll have to use Great Bows. The Dragon Slayer Great Bow is our only option here since the other one is locked behind the DLC bosses. Let's go ahead and get that from Anor Londo. It even comes with a complimentary arrow. How generous. It never hurts to equip the Hawk Ring to go with your bow, so we'll nudge past the giant blacksmith to take it from his chest. I'm more concerned about ammo than attack power, so I'm mostly going to be using the souls I get from feeding Frampt to buy the Dragon Slayer arrows we need to use this weapon. +2 is probably fine, and whatever's left can be used to get a few more arrows. Alright, let's take our 35 arrows and see how things are looking for the Centipede Demon. That damage is not bad at all. I'd even say that 35 arrows is way more than we need. I definitely need a lot more to account for all the times I'm gonna miss, which I know will be a lot. At the start of the fight, I stayed on the initial island and sniped it from afar, but this isn't very safe since I don't recover in time to dodge through its attacks. So we'll just lead it to the usual place in the arena and fight it up close. Punishing it up close is a lot easier than trying to punish the extended limb move. Usually I recover in time after shooting, and can use the tiny sliver of stamina I'm left with to dodge away before its next attack. Sometimes arrows will fly right past the Centipede Demon, so make sure it's facing towards you if the bow is aimed at its stomach. Otherwise, the arrow might slip through the little gaps in its stomach mouth. After this, we once again are getting more health. Nothing new here. What's the wheel got for us this time? Catalysts, huh? Looks like we can finally try some magic. I suppose we'd better start making our way to those Lord Souls. I'm going to ignore the Bed of Chaos for now and go back to the Duke's archives. This is probably common knowledge by now, but I found a cool glitch in this run that I've never seen before. I had no idea you could do this, but apparently, if you ride the lift in the Duke's archives to refresh the map and come back, Anor Londo will be sunny again, but the enemies will still be gone. So you can have the best of both worlds for a nice, peaceful stroll through the city. But anyways, back to what I was doing, we need to start preparing to fight Seath. Griggs has a nice bellowing Dragon Crest ring for us, and while we're here, we'll speak with Logan to get him to move to the archives. I still need more souls to buy extra copies of Great Heavy Soul Arrow, so we'll kill some things around the map while we're on our way to free Logan again. Alright, I'll get the first copy from Griggs, realize I forgot to get the red Tearstone ring in the Valley of Drakes, then go back to the archives to buy a second copy off of Logan. Magic isn't the best against Seath, so we're going to need to be in RTSR range to do this. Luckily, some clams followed me in here, so hopefully they can help me out with that. As you can see, the damage still isn't good, but just think about how much worse it would be without the ring boosting it. You don't want to stay close to him all the time, but you don't want to get too far away either, or your spell won't reach. And you also might get clipped by the crystals. Like that. I could get an extra attunement slot, but I'd rather just level up my intelligence for more brain power. That always works. I'll be killing a few more mini-bosses and getting each tail chop since Frampt will pay a lot for dragon weapons. And now we have 2 more points of intelligence than we did before, which makes a lot bigger of a difference than you'd think. It's not going to be enough extra damage for soul arrows alone to finish the job, but I've got a backup plan ready for situations like these. We're just going to poke him with the 10 Banishment Catalyst. I've done this with the Demon's Catalyst before, so I used this one just to be different. Even though the Demon's Catalyst is a much better melee weapon, but the tin one's not so bad with RTSR on. That's our first Lord down, so let's level up and give the wheel another spin. Next on the list is Thrusting Swords. Alright, this is an actual good weapon class, so I need to take the opportunity the game is giving me and get the Four Kings out of the way before I get stuck with something terrible. The one I've chosen is Ricard's Rapier, which I picked up earlier in Sin's Fortress. Before we fight the Four Kings, I've decided to clear out the ruins first to pick up the Very Large Ember. Clearing out the whole area gives me enough for 2 levels, which I'll dump into Endurance so I can put this weapon's special attack to good use. We'll buy some gold pine resin to buff it, and now we're ready to fight. The heavy attack can hit up to 6 times, and when buffed with lightning, we can kill a single king in a few combos. The first 2 kings went down easily, but the second batch kept trying to space me out. Thankfully, I had RTSR on in case I get stuck without health, so once I saw the opportunity to end the fight, I took it. As expected, Ricard's Rapier made quick work of the 4 kings, and we can move on to another boss. Okay, Wheel, what have you got for me this time? The lantern? I've been wondering when I was gonna have to use this. This is actually not a bad spin at the current point in the game. If I had gotten this pre-Anor Londo, then it would have been a problem. But now, I have a freebie because the Bed of Chaos exists, so I don't have to waste a real weapon on a gimmick. Oh man, I thought maybe if I didn't talk to him before, I could beat him to it. Well, I can't have him chasing me down every time I want to go to the boss, so you know what I have to do. The easiest way to kill him with this is to parry his attacks and try to bait him to roll backwards off the bridge. I wasn't really thinking about it, but if you do this, his drop will go into the lava, and since it's still in the map, reloading won't return it to his spawn point, so much for getting the Sunlight Straight Sword. Not to worry, there's another unique straight sword we can get in this very spot, from our good friend Kirk, who will invade us for the final time right before the Bed of Chaos fog wall. I tried to lead him into the lava so he could burn to death, but he seems to be tethered around where this tree starts, so we'll have to try to do the same to him that we did to Solaire until he dies. But I got a little impatient and tried to go for a second hit after parrying him and got comboed. Moving on to my next idea, we'll stay hollow so he can't invade us, and kill the Daughter of Chaos first so we have a good spot to fight him. If we get her stuck on this branch, she can't run away, and both of her spells take longer to cast than it takes to hit her with a lantern, so even if we're out of stamina, as long as we don't let go of the attack button, she can't hit us. Thankfully, Kirk doesn't have the fire resistance that she has, so he won't take nearly as long to kill with the lantern. And now, to see if Gwyn is truly listening to my prayers, will he drop the barbed straight sword? He dropped it! The gods haven't abandoned us! The Bed of Chaos only took a couple of attempts. I knew I would die at least once, so I did put on the Ring of Sacrifice so I wouldn't lose my humanity. Once again using the quit out strategy, I skip the run back from the second orb and go straight to the heart of the chaos. Vitality's looking a little low. I should definitely level that now that I'm this late into the game. With only Nito's Lord Soul remaining, it's just a matter of what the wheel tells us to slay him with. And the wheel picks Pyromancy. Not a bad choice at all. It's a little late to save Solaire, but we can still become a Chaos Servant for the other benefits. I've already got plenty of humanity to give her for Chaos Storm. We can upgrade our Pyromancy Flame to plus 15 with Engi, but we will need a lot of souls to do that, so we've got a bit of farming to do first. I could always do, but every now and then I still find myself in the mood for fried phalanx. Sadly, we missed out on Quelaag since we killed the Bed of Chaos before starting her quest, so we can't ascend our Pyromancy Flame, but plus 15 will still be very powerful. I mean, this is still Pyromancy we're talking about. I'd like to go back through the catacombs before I fight Nito though. For one thing, he needs to be in here to give me Gravelord's Sword Dance. It might be good to have an extra miracle for later, just in case. I also need the Dark Moon Seance Ring to combine with my White Seance Ring, so I can attune both of the Chaos Pyromancies. I can swap them out once I've used all the casts of my spells when the situation requires it. I like to start with Chaos Storm since that one can be pretty random. Sometimes I get interrupted by skeletons and only one pillar gets to form, but other times I get an attempt like this where the skeletons leave me alone and I get to annihilate most of Nito's health pool. Once I've used Chaos Storm, I swap to the Bellowing Dragon Crest Ring for some extra security before finishing him off with Great Chaos Fireball. Miracles are still on the wheel, so it would be a good idea to level up my attunement so I don't have to waste all my ring slots again. Now, shall we spin once more before heading into Ulasil? Well, it seems we'll be fighting Sanctuary Guardian with shields. Yippee! I listed them as medium shields on the wheel to distinguish them from other shields, but in-game, standard parrying shields are just called shields. Despite what the wiki says, the effigy shield is classified as a standard shield in-game, not as a small shield, even if it shares many qualities with small shields. I chose this one because it negates 90% of lightning damage, which seemed like a good thing to have against a boss that spams lightning projectiles. I wasn't wrong, it would be a good thing to have if it weren't for the fact that we have to attack with it as well. This shield already has low stability, which makes stamina consumption a problem in this fight. Of course the damage is low, I was expecting that, so eventually I gave up on blocking and started using RTSR just to make this go by faster. With that in mind, I realized that I might as well get a different shield if I'm not even getting any use out of the lightning resistance that makes the effigy shield worthwhile. Going to the other end of the spectrum, I joined the Forest Hunters to get the largest of the standard shields, the Iron Round Shield. I want to kill Shiva and his bodyguard because I'm going to be light rolling for this, so the Darkwood Grain Ring will be really helpful. While the raw attack power of the Iron Round Shield is only a slight improvement from the Effigy Shield, it has much better stability and is capable of heavy deflection, although I don't think deflection matters much in this fight. With this shield, I was staggering the Sanctuary Guardian much more, and the extra damage from RTSR was adding up quicker than I thought it would. Having 100% physical damage negation also ended up being more helpful than lightning negation, because I could easily dodge the lightning with my flips. Meanwhile, being able to block a few swipes was the difference between life and death. We can spin again now to see what we'll have to use against Artorias. And so it is talismans. Honestly, one of the better options. Where there are talismans, there are miracles, and where there are miracles, there are lots of greedy little clerics to sell them to you. When we're done collecting those, it's time to dupe our Guardian Soul and get 30 faith so we can join the Sunlight Covenant to get Lightning Spear, and I'll throw in a little bit of attunement as well. Our miracle lineup for Artorias is looking promising. Maybe it'll even be enough to kill him. We'll cast them in order, starting with Wrath of the Gods, then Lightning Spear, Gravelord Sword Dance, and lastly, Emit Force. Lightning Spear is strong with decent range, but has a really long wind-up, which means he has a good chance to go into his next attack before the animation is done and evade it. Emit Force is kind of the same thing, just without the strong part. And Gravelord Sword Dance has Gravelord Sword Dance. I've done a whole playthrough with this miracle and still wasted both casts of this. All I had left was Emit Force, which I also wouldn't consider reliable, but it's not like I really have a choice. So I cast it, and he rolled away during the long wind-up, but the wind-up was so long that he managed to dodge back into my line of fire, which would have been an amazing turn of events had it actually killed him. Some may say I should accept my fate and restart the fight, but I must put my trust in the sacred fabric of the talisman. Is that not what it means to be a man of the cloth? Even when it seems like I should have died, the talisman watched over and protected me. It told me that I must put on the red Tearstone ring, and it will bless me twofold. And it was surely thanks to that blessing that I could even defeat him at all. But now, we must bid our talisman farewell, and hope that we can be blessed by the wheel instead. I wouldn't really call that a blessing. I've saved the Moonlight Butterfly's soul just so I could make the Crystal Ring Shield. It's probably the best small shield we could pick since it has a projectile attack. The projectile isn't very good, but still better than the damage from a shield bash, and like all special attacks, it will use up durability, so we need to have repair powder in our hotbar at all times. Once upon a time, this projectile's damage was based on the damage of your right-hand weapon, but those days are long gone, and now it's just a sad little thing that scales with nothing and struggles against basic enemies. It goes without saying that RTSR is mandatory if you're going to be taking this into boss fights. I chose Manus because oddly enough I feel very comfortable with his moveset, and while the damage I am doing is pathetic, The fact that it's yellow damage makes me feel at least slightly more motivated to fight him. Don't get me wrong, it's still going to take a lot of patience, and since I will be doing lots of dodging, I might as well be using the ninja flip. It can't save me after every stupid mistake, but it gets pretty close. Let's talk about the shield itself. When shooting the projectile from a good distance, the damage stays consistent. But if you try to hit from melee range, you might get some extra damage, which I assume is from the shield itself hitting at the same time as the projectile. That's what I would expect to happen every time, but the weird thing is, sometimes when attacking at melee range, the projectile just doesn't hit, or it doesn't count the damage. I wasn't entirely sure what was going on here, so it got to a point where if I had a chance to hit him up close, I would leave a tiny bit of extra space between the shield and his body, and that seemed to fix the problem. The winning attempt took just over 12 minutes. Not too bad considering how tanky Manus is. This brings us to our final spin of the playthrough. What will we have to use against Calamite? Why is it always bows? Could be a bit more original, but I'm not complaining. Bows are always fun. The giant blacksmith will make the Dark Moon bow for us with Gwendolyn's soul. Since most of the damage from this bow is concentrated in magic, we're meant to use moonlight arrows with it, so we'll buy some of those as well. Unsurprisingly, damage isn't great with this bow. My faith isn't that high, but on top of that, Calamite's very resistant to elemental damage in general, so this just wasn't a good idea in the first place. As you can see, even with the Dark Moon bow, physical damage arrows are matching moonlight arrows in damage, so if we had a standard bow, our damage would be a lot better. Since I'm running something closer to a quality build anyway, I went to pick up the composite bow and used that instead. Large arrows are not only much cheaper than moonlight arrows, but are doing twice the damage, so we don't have to eat through our whole stock just to kill him. With only one weapon class remaining, there's no need to spin for Gwyn. It's time to repay him for blessing us with the barbed straightsword. This isn't what I expected to use this sword for, but since it's a rare drop, we might as well get some use out of it. Practically any other straightsword would outclass this one at this point. This is supposed to be a trade-off for the fact that it inflicts bleed, but of course Gwyn is immune to bleed, so all we're left with is a weaker straightsword. It's not that bad though. It has a really good heavy attack combo that makes it easy to stun him. The strategy is the same as always. I try to be patient and wait for a grab before going too crazy. Most of his other attacks will combo into each other, so even drinking an Estus in between a hit is taking a big risk. Once I get back into the flow, I find myself stacking those staggers like nothing with this sword. Even if the raw damage isn't the best, I think the heavy attacks made up for it in this case. It feels poetic to finish the game with the most basic weapon class. I suppose the simple sword is known for its reliability. Thank you all for watching the video. I always appreciate hearing your feedback, as well as all the suggestions for future runs. I hope you enjoyed yet another rendition of the Random Weapon Classes Challenge. I had a lot of fun as always. Anyways, if you like Dark Souls challenges and themed runs, feel free to check out the other videos on my channel, and I hope I'll see you again in the next one.